artificial intelligence. That is like the new buzzword. That's what everyone's talking about. You see, you can't go anywhere where somebody's not saying that AI is going to take over, right? Replace humans. Humans are obsolete, or is it going to help us, or is it going to hurt us? What we need to do is really understand what is artificial intelligence. Because we immediately think that artificial intelligence is replicating humans. Let's just be clear. You cannot replicate a human with a computer. Computers cannot have feelings. They cannot have emotions, right? They cannot cry. They cannot laugh. So what we have to do when we're talking about intelligence, and we're talking about human intelligence, and we're talking about artificial intelligence, I like to break it down into two categories. And you could call it objective and subjective intelligence. Objective intelligence is based on facts and data. That's based on actual information that's happening. Subjective is emotions and feelings, happiness and sadness. When we talk about artificial intelligence, what we're really talking about is how can we automate the objective intelligence to allow humans to focus more on subjective intelligence. Because here's the reality. Doing calculations, analyzing and correlating data are typically tasks that are time consuming and we don't necessarily need to do. What makes us human, what makes us who we are, what makes us unique is the subjective element. It's the emotional component. It's the ability to be able to add emotion into the data to be able to make decisions and interact with other humans. So to me, when we're talking about artificial intelligence, we have to be real careful and make sure that we're focusing on handing off the objective piece to the intelligence, do all the analysis, and then let the subjective analysis focus on us and humans. If we do that, then AI now can be very enabling. It can be very enhancing and can take our lives to the next level. The concern that I have with AI is we're blurring the lines between objective intelligence and subjective intelligence. Let me give an example. I have a friend of mine who's a coach. He runs big events, and at these events, hundreds of people come to the room. And what he's known for is picking one or two people out of the audience and doing what they call sort of an intervention with them, where he interacts with them for 20 or 30 minutes, and in real time in front of the audience, he solves their problem and he changes their life. It's an amazing experience, totally emotional. So everybody goes to these events and they want to be picked. You could be picked. If you could be one of the 2 or 3 people that are picked, it's amazing. But the reality is the other 200 or 300 people don't get that interaction. So they can try to use the tools and solve the problems, but they don't get that interaction on their own. So this coach friend of mine took all of his lectures and all of his information and all of his data, and he fed it into AI and created a custom AI tool that can think, act, and behave like him. So he sent it to me and said, Eric, can you take a look at it? What do you think? So I went in and I looked at it and I analyzed it and I actually did a real-time intervention. I said, hey, I have a problem. And it said, okay, tell me about the problem. And the questions that it asked me was like I was talking to this person. It was like I was connecting with them. I almost felt like they were in the room with me. It was weird. It was this weird effect where the computer almost became humanized. And they were going in and giving me the data and the feedback and the information. And at the end, I felt really good. I had the problem solved and the issue addressed. And I call him back and I'm like, hey, I got some feedback for you. He goes, great. I'm like, I got good news and bad news. I said, the good news is that it was amazing. I felt like I was talking to you. I felt like I was interacting with you. I said, the bad news is I don't need to talk to you. I don't need to interact with you. And the problem is, in that situation, the AI was not doing data analysis. It was not doing objective analysis. What it was trying to do is replace and act like a human from an emotional standpoint, but without the emotion. So now, because I got the answer that I needed, I now say I don't need to talk to that person. So it's replacing that human interaction. But here's the issue. When I really sat down at the end of the day, yes, my problem was solved and I knew what to do. But I didn't have the same feeling that I did when I was at the event. When I'm at the event, you walk away because you have more emotion and the interaction and the energy exchange with other humans and with this amazing coach that you actually are feeling yourself at a different level. But when I'm working with the computer, there's none of that energy exchange. There's none of that emotion. I'm basically one-sided. So I got the answer, but I didn't have the same feeling, and I was still a little down, a little depressed, and not as energized as I would have been in talking to a person. So that's an example where I think AI is going too far. If we're going in and we're using AI as a replacement to talk to a human, so now you're solving my problem, so I don't need to talk to you anymore, that's bad. That's where I think, if we're not careful, it can go off the rails. Computers can actually take over. We could become obsolete. And movies like Terminator or these other ones where the computers actually take over and control humans and lock up humans and put humans in prison could actually become a reality because we allowed them to replace that human, emotional, subjective intelligence piece. But if we're careful and we're smart and we do what we should be doing, which is only using AI for objective. When I need data analysis, I use AI. When I need human interaction, when I need emotion, when I need connection, I won't go to AI for that. I'm not going to go to AI for advice. I'm going to go to AI for data analysis. And if I want advice or feedback, I'm going to always go to a human. And as long as we keep that distinction and we're careful on when is AI good and when is AI bad, AI is good for objective intelligence and humans are good for subjective intelligence. As long as we can keep that line really, really clear and distinct, then AI can be very powerful and enhance our lives. But if we're not careful and those lines blur and we're letting AI not only do objective, but also subjective intelligence, and all of a sudden we don't need to talk to humans and we're isolating ourselves and becoming dependent on computers, that's when things get really dangerous and really scary really, really fast.